Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? Um, there seems to be a little bit of confusion going on as to the descendants of the grandsons of Noah, the 16 grandsons of Noah. So, one thing to note is that each of the grandsons of Noah have their own haplogroup designation with people living today with that haplogroup. So all of the haplogroups in the world line up to the 16 grandsons of Noah perfectly. So that's one thing that needs to be understood. Anyway, there there's this thing. I got in contact with Dr. Jensen. He responded once. He didn't really respond back yet, as far as I know. But um, he uh, he threw out the Cohen modal type haplogroup. In other words, the descendants of the Kohanim, the priest of Israel, um, are obligated to tell their son that they are direct descendant of Aaron to be a priest of Israel. So throughout all history, they have every descendant of Aaron has told his son that he's a descendant of Aaron. So they took all these the DNA of all these Kohen, priests of Israel, and they compared it, and they found, what is probably the marker for Aaron, the brother of Moses, of the tribe of Levi, of course, and it's an R1. So he basically just threw that out, discarded it. He also discarded the fact that the largest haplogroup of the Jewish people is a J2. He threw that out and said as Turkic. He said there as Turkic. Um, or actually, he has of the Jewish people, and actually, then on top of that, he replaces the descendants of Abraham and says they're Japhethites, descendants of Japheth. So he's got all the seven sons of Japheth underneath the single lineage of Arphaxad, which is really, really strange. It's just, to me, it's surreal. Surreal how somebody could claim something like that and write a book about it and claim to be correct. But anyway, and so the result of his conclusions is that he has all the northern nations being Semitic. So all those northern nations that were Japhethites that went north, he has them as being Semitic. So that's Gomer, Madai, Tubal, and then of course the Greek people, which is the Javan and Tiraz. That's five, and then Meshach and Tubal. Meshach and Magog. He has all those northern nations, which are basically the Eurasians. he has he has them as being Semitic. Now, how in the world can the northern nations be Semitic? And it makes no sense at all. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's totally, totally off the wall. But anyway, and so I emailed him. I contacted him, through Telegram or whatever. He hasn't gotten back to me with anything rational. He said thanks for the information or something, but that was about it. So I sent him another one, and he hasn't got back to me on it yet. But he's got all the Japhethites underneath one lineage of Arphaxad, and he's got all the northern nations as being Semitic. He switched the Japhethites with the Semites, and on top of that, he's got all of the Japhethites underneath Arpachshad. He's got all the Japhethites as being a descendant of one lineage called Arpachshad. Hello, Iger. How you doing? Everything's good, bro. Everything's good except uh, Doctor Jensen has went off the rails. But anyway, he switched the Semitic and Japhetic lines. He says Magog, Meshach, and Tubal. He says those are Semitic, and the descendants of Arpachshad. He says those are Japhethites, 7 sons of Japhethites under one line of Arpachshad, Arphaxad, which is totally off the wall. That's totally anyway. You know, I don't want to get going too much, but it's really really off the wall. It's like because as I have in the title is that each grandson of Noah has their own haplotype, and he just kind of like ignored all that and designated the descendants of Arpachshad as Turkic and said those are the descendants of Japheth, which are all in the Semitic areas. It's all in the central Mideast area, and somehow he's got all the Semitic people where the Japhethites are supposed to be, or which are of course. It's like what is this guy? Is this guy an infiltrator trying to make creationists look bad, or what is this guy? But I emailed him, haven't gotten a good response back yet. But now, now he's got everybody, you know, at each other's throats and everything because he wrote a book about it. And I'm trying to keep calm. And if anybody knows me, I get irate. I get, you know, if you push the buttons enough, I go off. I get angry. It's kind of my nature, but I always have good self control. I have a lot of self control though. But so I'm just going to sit back and laugh, because it's totally absurd, ridiculous. Meanwhile, he's gonna make a big mess in the Christianity, Young Earth movement, Young Earth creation. He's going to make Young Earth creationists look really bad, make us all look like nuts, like he infiltrated just to make us look bad, and he's dragging Ken Ham into it. He says Ken Ham's R1B haplogroup is Semitic because he's R1B too, and he says they're Semitic descendants of Shem when they're descendants of Riphath. Riphath is the brother of Ashkenaz. They're both sons of Gomer. Gomer, of course, being the son of Japheth. And it's a known. This is known human history we're talking about. It's known human history that Gomer went into Europe, settled, and in Europe. And of course, one thing, if you know anything about Y chromosomes, if people were there, there's going to be a remnant of the population wherever they went. It's not going to disappear like he says that he's trying to say that the Jewish people disappeared from the Middle East and they're all up north now. Well, that's just nonsense. It's totally absurd. It's totally. I mean, just don't get me started. I mean, this is nonsense. Anyways, there's so much things, and like I said before, the uh, the Asiatic mitochondrial DNA of Madai, because Madai asked to marry Shem's daughter, that mitochondrial lineage shadows everywhere Madai went. So Madai went to America. There's the A mitochondrial maternal haplogroup there where Madai went. Madai went to Europe. There's the X, that's an offshoot of A in Europe, shadowing exactly where Madai was. And Madai was in Europe. And his haplogroup, his QY chromosome, is there in Europe to this day, where he was supposed to have been. Tubal was said to have been the first one to Italy. There's still 8% of Tubal in Italy. And it's not found in other places. It's found in Italy. But I mean, it's found in Asia. It's also because Tubal is also part of the Japhethites who went north and east and north and west. Like Gomer and like Magog. So Tubal, the KY chromosome, is found all the way in Australia. So we have this stuff going on, and I'm really not happy to see, you know, people making claims like this that are totally contrary to what the evidence is. I mean, we know Meshach went north. Meshach went north and is all the way up in Siberia. We know Magog went north, and Magog is went north and then the east. Magog is all over China. So, he's trying to say the Chinese are Semitic. He's trying to say Meshach up north, the Siberians are Semitic. He's trying to say Gomer is Semitic. It's just nonsense. I don't know. He says Thracians, the Greeks are not Semitic, but somehow he has them designated as Semitic anyway. And I don't know which Y chromosome he says there is there in Greek, which is supposed to be Semitic. I don't know, but it's totally off the wall. And he has G and H, which is Asher and Elam. He has them being under Ham. It's just totally all messed up. It's like G is one of the first people in Europe. Of course, I said that Madai is in Europe, Gomer is Europe, Tubal is in Italy, the Thracians and Javan are in Greece, but the Assyrians conquered the world. Remember, the Assyrians conquered the world early on with Nimrod and all them people, and the Assyrians moved up into Europe. The Assyrians are in Europe. They went to Europe. The GY chromosome is there in Europe from the Assyrians, together with, now this is ancient This is ancient people they're talking about. Together with the C1. That's where the C1. You know who the C1 is? Is Nimrod. So the descendants of Nimrod went with the Assyrians into Europe, and they that's designated as the C1. The C2 is Nimrod in the Pacific. C3 is the Mongolians all the way to the Americas. C4 is Australia, and C5 is somewhere in Asia. All descendants of Nimrod. But there. Remember, they said the first Europeans were dark. It's because of Nimrod, the C Y chromosome, C paternal haplogroup of the first Europeans that were there in Europe. That's why they claim that the first Europeans were dark, because they're descendants of Nimrod. You know, and then of course they said they were replaced, and they were replaced because there's not many people in Europe today with a CY chromosome, or well, the G is still there, but it's like spread all over Europe. Thinly is what I mean by spread. But anyway, I got it right. every every haplogroup, every haplogroup of the 1,000 genome Simmons Genome Project, every single haplogroup designation lines up with one of the grandsons of Noah. And I've named them off. I've been naming them off for months now. You know, except for the Africans, they're all E3 groups. There's an E3 group of the North Africans. There's the E3 group of the Egyptian Africans. There's the E3 group of the Canaanite, which are not Africans, but they're outside of Africa, but they're in Saudi Arabia and the Levant area. It's Canaan, and then there's Cush, which is probably the A, B, C, D, and who knows how many E's, E2 or whatever it is. I don't know, but it's a because Cush is hard to group together in one group because it's such a big group. It's the South Africa, the what they call below the Sahara Africans, and which they don't like being called that sometimes. But it's the Africans, you know, what do you say, along the equator, south of the equator, and plus, of course, the descendants of Nimrod, because Nimrod's the son of Cush. But Cush didn't stay in the land of Shinar like Nimrod did, because Nimrod's a king. He stayed there. Cush went to Africa with the rest of his sons, with the exception of one of his other sons, is the DY chromosome, which is the Andamanese, the Tibetans, the Jomons, and the Ainus and Japanese, northern Japanese people with the DY chromosome, descendants of Cush, just like C is the descendants of Cush. They're all descendants of Cush. That's why the Olmec statues look Polynesian, is because they have the same ancestor Nimrod as the Polynesians do. Only one is C3, the other one is C2. So everything fits perfectly, of course, with Q being Madai in America. Then there's the thing of the Phoenicians in the days of King Solomon that basically have the signature of the Jewish people. No problem, Margaret. Take it easy. God bless. So, the descendants of Nimrod, or the descendants of Phoenicians, have the same basic signature as the Jewish people. Only, of course, the Jewish people have more J2 and J1 than maybe probably the Phoenicians did. But the Phoenicians had a huge signature of Javan, which is the TY chromosome. Uh, they have the G, they have the R1B, they have the E, of course, because of North Africans, Egyptian, Canaanites, etc., and as the Phoenicians. And so all of these Y chromosomes are found in America. On top of that, the XY chromosome, which is the descendants of the wife of Madai, is the same XY chromosome in the Levant area, Middle East Levant area. It's called an X2A or something like that. It's found in the Levant area and America, in the area of the copper mines in America, where the Phoenicians mined copper in ancient times, and gold and silver. So, and they would bring back a lot of copper, gold, silver, and whatever for the temple in the days of King Solomon, because they were at peace with Israel at the time. That was before Israel broke apart between Israel and Judah. So the I-1 is there in America. The I-2 is there in America of Dan. Of course, that's another thing that you cannot deny, that the Sardinia I-2 are the direct descendants of Dan. You cannot deny the people in the Danube area with the I-2 are direct descendants of Dan. You just can't do it. Denmark, Dan, I-2 is all the way up in Denmark, and a whole bunch of other places in Europe. You can't deny that. But anyway, I don't want to go off too much. I'm just trying to be, you know, laid back and everything about this whole thing. But it's the guy wrote a book about it, and it's not a good thing, because it's going to cause all kinds of discussion and argumentation and everything. He dragged Ken Ham into the fray, which I really am disappointed in. Now, now everybody's going to be accusing Ken Ham of being anti-Semitic, because that's what they're going to say. So basically, because you're saying the Jews are not Jews, the Jewish people that suffered in the Holocaust. He's Dr. Jensen is saying they're not Jews. He's claiming that they're Japhethites. The same thing as saying they're Magog, Meshach, and Tubal. That's what his claim is. He switched everything around, and now all of a sudden, the Jewish people that suffered for being Jews all their lives, throughout all history, he's labeling them as basically Magog, Meshach, and Tubal, which is real serious. You know, I mean, and it's totally against the science, totally against what everything that everybody has ever known throughout all history. He claims to have discovered this great secret and everything, which somehow suddenly puts all the Semitic people north where Japheth is supposed to be. And if Japheth went north, his descendants would still be there. And that's not the case. I mean, with the exception of J2 going up which is another evidence of the fact that J2 is the Judaic people, because J2 goes all the way down, follows the Silk Road all the way to China. The Uyghurs in China are Judaic. J2 Judaic. The same J2 Judaic that went up the Rhine River and called themselves Ashkenazi, because they were in the land of Ashkenaz, the son of Gomer, the son of Japheth. I mean, I've been going over this for months now. Well, this guy comes out with a book that's totally off the wall, totally unscientific, and it's just, Not good. Not good at all. I'm just going to sit back and laugh at all the confusion that he's causing, because he apparently, he's been looking at this for. He wrote a book. He's been working on it for years, and he can't figure out that each haplogroup is one of the grandsons of Noah. So the Japhethites have seven sons. He's got the seven sons under one lineage of J2 and J1 and I, which is the same lineage, which is my lineage. But that's another thing. It's beside the point. Anyway, but it's very, very anti Semitic. It'll be perceived as anti Semitic whether it is or not, whether he tends it to be or not, because he's basically labeling the Jews as being the nation, the Goyim. His claim is that the Jews are Goyim, the nations. You know, which is totally off the wall. Anyway, I better stop before I go off, get irate and everything. So everybody take care. God bless, and stay with the truth. Stay with the facts. Stay with the science, please. Thanks. God bless.